first mistake I see hunters making is using the same techniques and/or hunting locations they used during the pre-rut. Now let's define again. The pre-rut is when there's just a few does receptive, up to about 25% of the doe population has been bred or is receptive. After that, that's the rut. There's so much scent in the air, bucks are just seeking receptive does. It's not a food cover pattern like it was during the pre-rut. During this time, scrapes are gonna dry up. There's no need to go to that communication post. There's so much scent in the air everywhere, they're just seeking a receptive doe. Hunters need to accept that the rut is going to happen at the same time, at the same location year after year. In fact, throughout much of the whitetails range, the day that the most does are receptive is going to be about November 13th. This is driven by the photo period, or the amount of light each day, the sun's energy. So each day it gets a little shorter and a little shorter. The moon's orbit is elliptical, but the change is not more than 1% each day. So on November 8th, there's X amount of minutes of sunshine, and that's the same last year or 5 years from now within about 1%. That's the perfect cue that triggers earlier in the year the increase of testosterone for does to start becoming receptive. That's driven by photo period. Great research on this, and the moon has nothing to do with it. I know that hurts some people's feelings, but you gotta learn to trust good science. In this case, that's been replicated study after study after study with wild free-ranging deer. There's no doubt about when the rut's gonna occur at any location. What misleads some hunters is you may see a buck chasing a doe a couple weeks ago in October or something. Oh, the rut's early this year. That's a sample of one. We're talking samples of thousands and thousands of deer, and I don't know, maybe hundreds of thousands of fetuses that have been measured. That's an estimate for the past couple decades of researchers studying the rut or the timing of conception dates for deer. Mistake number 2 is somewhat along the lines of what we discussed in mistake number 1. As that testosterone's been loading up in those bucks, increasing in the blood serum levels due to the decreasing day length, they're now focused on finding a receptive doe and not that food cover pattern during the pre-rut. That means looking for that receptive doe, they're going to use their entire home range, where when you're hunting the pre-rut, they may just be using a quarter or so of the home range. There's a lot of variables here, food sources and stuff like that. But during the rut, they're certainly using the bulk of their home range and maybe even a bit more. You know, if the buck's home range is here and they get with the receptive doe that home range only overlaps about 10%, he's gonna follow that doe in that foreign country, if you will, till that time is over, which is 24 to 36 hours. Bucks normally tend a receptive doe. And this is why you may see bonus bucks or bucks that aren't showing up on your trail cameras during the rut, or you may have bucks go missing. And this is a big change. You need to really be able to, if you're a hunter that wants to shoot a certain age class buck, be able to estimate the age of a buck in a quick amount of time. You see that buck coming or crossing the power line or whatever, because you're not hunting the same bucks potentially that you've been getting trail camera pictures of throughout the late summer and early fall. GPS collars have been an incredible tool for studying the rut, and we know based on that data from, you know, Pennsylvania and Mississippi and Georgia and all kind of states in between, that bucks actually walk more steps per day during the rut, and that amount of steps tends to increase all the way up to the peak of the rut, which is again about November 13th. They're walking way more steps both at night and during daytime. So during the rut, if you're a guy that's got a schedule and the flexibility and the stamina to stay in the blind or staying all day long, that's a good pattern for a hunter to use during the rut. Now, the bulk of the movement, clearly shown by all these different research projects, is dawn and dusk. But because bucks tend to spend about 6 or 8 hours in a core area looking for a receptive doe and then shift to another core area looking for receptive does, once they finish scouting one area or they've been with a receptive doe, they've tended her for 24 to 36 hours and they bust free and go look for another receptive doe. That can happen any time of day. And that's why we get some of those movements in the midday. Still, the bulk of the movement is daylight and dusk, you know, morning and late evening. But any time of day, you can see a buck on his feet during the rut, and that's when you need to spend a lot of hours out there hunting.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, PH Outdoors, Black Widow Bows, Moultrie, Steel, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, Fourth Arrow, Soil Pro Outdoors, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Burris Optics, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
Mistake number 3 is hopping around too much. If you've got an area, you know there's a group of does bedding in an area, you've known that from years of hunting there, or there's thick cover and you can approach downwind and hunt downwind, you're not getting busted, and you see a buck go by and you don't get the shot. Maybe he's pushing a doe and going too fast. Don't say, man, I gotta go somewhere else. Research clearly shows these bucks kind of run a circuit on average. Anything can happen. And you may stay there a day or two before he comes back by, scent checking that area. Remember, it's not that food cover pattern of the early pre-rut. You've got to be where bucks are traveling. I like to set, and one of my favorite hunting techniques is to be downwind of a thick bedding area that I can see into. That means I've got an elevated blind like a redneck. I'm looking down into the cover, or in hill country like here at the Ozark Mountains, I'm on one ridge looking into the side hill of another ridge. And even though that thick cover may be waist tall on me, when you're looking into the side of a mountain like this, you can see deer moving clearly and see the vitals. I have tagged a bunch of bucks using that strategy. Wherever you are this time of year during the rut, you want to know where does are hopefully bedding, and you can approach, hunt, and exit from the downhill side or a travel corridor that bucks are going to use, going to check out different areas. You can get away with more during the rut. The bucks are not quite as cautious. They still want to survive, but they're just moving a lot and they're tired. They lose about 1/3 of their body weight. So travel areas or bedding areas are my focus during the whitetail rut. I encourage each of you to find good sources of science about deer biology and deer behavior and apply it to your hunting techniques. That's a great way to put more venison in the freezer. It might surprise some of y'all that good science exists about deer. You don't have to believe those one-buck wonders. And it may surprise you even more to know that good science always points toward a creator. Louis Pasteur and many great scientists of the past, from physics and DNA and even studying how to pasteurize milk, all found the creator and accepted Christ as their savior through their deep science. These men all started as non-believers and become believers once they really understood how the system works, and they understood that the only way that could explain this was the creator. To have a great life, seek the creator's will and apply it to your life daily. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.